Hi, welcome to the Crypto Republic. Before we begin today, if you're serious about staying ahead in this once-in-a-lifetime financial ship, make sure you like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the Crypto Republic. Hello, XRP Army, and welcome back to the Crypto Republic, your go-to channel for the latest Chinese updates and digital assets. Before we get started with today's business, make sure to smash that like button, ring that bell, and subscribe to the Crypto Republic, bringing you updates every day at 1:30 and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just a reminder, this video is for educational purposes only. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. As always, thank you to everyone who supports this channel. Liking the video and subscribing really does make a difference. With that said, let's break this down. Well, XRP enters BlackRock's orbits. The silent shift. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not saying BlackRock is buying XRP. We're breaking down why XRP is now part of the institutional conversation worldwide. Most financial revolutions don't announce themselves with headlines. They unfold quietly, like the printing of the first Federal Reserve notes in 1913, unseen by the public until decades later, yet reshaping global markets entirely. Right now, while retail traders obsess over daily price swings, the world's largest asset manager is positioning itself quietly to integrate Ripple's infrastructure. This isn't hype, it's infrastructure. And today, we're exploring why XRP has entered BlackRock's orbit, the trillions at stake, and how it could reshape global finance. Imagine standing at the crossroads of traditional finance and blockchain. The signs already visible if you know where to look. I want to talk about understanding the scale. Scale is everything in this story, ladies and gentlemen. BlackRock manages over $10 trillion, dwarfing the entire crypto market. For context, that's larger than the combined market capitalization of every public company in the S&P 500, multiplied several times over. Even a subtle move by an entity of this size sends shockwaves. Historically, think of the 2008 crisis. Large banks, positioning, created cascading effects globally. Compare that to crypto's 2 to 3 trillion market cap, and you begin to see why institutional entry is not incremental. It's systematic, and it's seismic. So, while retail watches candles, institutions move infrastructure. The real story is liquidity, plumbing, and systematic alignment, not daily price action. The tokenization revolution. Tokenization is the modern equivalent of the gold standard transition, moving from old systems to an infrastructure that allows rapid, efficient, and secure transfer of values. Let that sink in. Legacy systems lock assets in silos. Settlements take days. Fees cost billions. Tokenization solves this, but only if the rails can handle institutional scale. Ripple's XRPLedger and RLUSD are precisely that type of infrastructure. They provide speed, compliance, liquidity bridges. Here's a historical analogy. Think of the introduction of the telegraph for financial markets. Overnight, information traveled faster, allowing rapid capital allocation. Tokenization does the same thing, but for real assets on-chain. Comment below if you've tracked stablecoin adoption alongside XRP's accumulation. It tells a story most people miss, and I want to hear how you guys are seeing this and what your feelings are about that. I want to talk about stablecoins as the connective tissue. Institutions prioritize stability. RLUSD, Ripple's dollar-backed stablecoin, acts as collateral, settlement layer, and bridge. In the 19th century, banknotes backed by gold ensured trust in transactions across borders. RLUSD is the modern digital version, compliant and ledger native. Since its launch, RLUSD has grown rapidly. Supply metrics show institutional confidence, even while retail investors remain exhausted at lower price ranges. Here's what most people miss, ladies and gentlemen. XRP's role isn't speculation. It's liquidity, provisioning for the new financial ecosystem. XRP is the bridge. I want to talk about XRP as the institutional bridge. XRP complements stablecoins. Think of it like the railroads of the 1800s. They didn't produce goods, but they moved them efficiently, reshaping economics, low fees, near instant settlement, and high throughput. They make XRP the backbone of institutional flows. While retail sees sideways action, institutional positioning creates supply vacuums, similar to how early railroad monopolies quietly controlled trade routes before anyone noticed. Retail panics, unfortunately. Whales move silently. Classic market cycles repeat themselves, and history is already giving us a blueprint. Well, ladies and gentlemen, been an amazing 24 hours. What a time to be alive. I want to welcome all the new members of our Patreon, all the new members of our membership channel, and everybody who's brand new here to the Crypto Republic. Welcome. I'm going to try to tie in some of the major themes that we've been framing our narrative about where we're going and why. See here, it's our belief, and anyone that retains our organization and capacity, the global reset has begun. We don't believe it's begun because of anything that's happened domestically in the western side of the tranche. We believe what I've been talking about and discussing so much on the eastern side of the tranche has begun. So I want to bring up again, for everybody who's brand new here, you're going to hear me go over this narrative that we're framing so you can understand the story so everyone can be on the same page. I want to talk about the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Again, there's the Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange, okay? Well, the Shanghai Gold Exchange has warrants, and those warrants are claims against gold. The Shanghai Gold Exchange warrant would be like a warrant to take gold and then never deliver it. Those warrants are going up. The Shanghai Gold Exchange warrants are going up, and they're mirroring the price of gold. They're paralleling it. So I would say this to you. Gold is rallying because China is squeezing the world, okay? Silver is rallying because, well, everyone's afraid of being squeezed by silver, and copper is rallying for the same reasons. Remember, in the last couple of videos, we've been talking about how we believe in silver are going to be moving in tandem. Copper hit all-time highs. And they're rallying for the same reasons, which brings me back to two of my main theses. One is the obvious. Gold is going to be finance collateral for future deals. You're going to be able to use gold at a repo to take a loan against it to build a highway in your country, and it's going to happen. And they wouldn't be buying these warrants if they didn't think it would be happening. So basically, they're pre-ordering. Second thing is a little bit less obvious, but it's important. Now, this is completely my opinion. This is like the Game of Thrones, okay, ladies and gentlemen? The Ice King is gold, and he's rising all the commodities from the dead. And believe me, that's what's happening right now. All charts can end up looking like gold if things keep up like this. This is not financial advice. This is just my financial professional opinion, okay? And anyone that retains any capacity, this is not financial advice, but that's an analogy. So the question is, why did gold lead all this? Simple. Because gold's the easiest one to do it, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need it for anything. You just buy it, you hold it. If it's energy, you can't squeeze energy. You have to use it. You can't hoard it. You can squeeze energy. You can't squeeze gold. You can hoard gold. And so they've been hoarding gold. And as gold goes higher and higher, well, all the commodity starts looking at gold and saying, well, where's our natural occurrence in nature? And if gold's trading 5,000, 6,000, then silver's going, well, I got to be worth more, right? And everything goes up. And the last thing to go up will be energy. I'm not saying that energy is definitely going to go up. I'm not guaranteeing energy is going to go up. Right now, energy's got a foot on its throat right now. So there's two options, right thing, and there's two things. One, gold is going to be a HQLA repo asset. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, welcome. We've been talking about the financial threat to the U.S. Treasury regime system. We believe the global reset has begun because of the use of gold to try to be an HQLA repo asset, high quality liquid asset. That means you can use gold to collateralize any development. You don't have to use treasuries anymore. Treasuries were always used. That's the initial assault on the U.S. Treasury and that regime, okay? So, if you look at price actions, what happened last night in the metals market, somebody definitely got carried out in a body bag and cut up like sushi. On a chart, and I'm not someone who shares charts, I share macro events that see where I think the prices are going and why. You can almost see how gold never dipped and everybody ran to buy at one point and it just pushed much higher because there was never going to be a dip and they didn't want to miss out on the trade, so they piled in, okay? So if gold used by the BRICS and a unit can now be collateralized, it makes a lot of sense. You got Germany talking about selling their gold, which I don't understand, and I've been on the phone all day. The phones have not stopped ringing. They just have not stopped ringing, unfortunately. It's a good thing, but I like being here with you guys. Fortunately, the video's going to come out a little bit later today. So why would Germany sell any of their gold? That makes no sense whatsoever. Look, in India now, you can take a loan against your silver. So if you need money, take a loan against your asset. Why would you sell it? Someone asked me this today over the phone. I never intend to sell any of my crypto assets. I'll take loans against them when that time comes. I don't know if there's any good platforms yet that I've looked into, but I put things away, and when the time comes, I dust it off and say to myself, what's going to be my best use of this? If you can take a loan against an asset, do that. There's no reason to liquidate. When you take a loan against an asset, you don't really, sometimes you defend against having a taxable event. So, but this is not financial advice, this is my opinion. So 1 2 things that we always talk about here at the Republic: gold is going to be an HQLA repo asset. That is the initial assault on the dollar, why the Great Reset, in our opinion, has become and started. We saw the bill get voted today, which is going to move, thank God. It's going to start moving forward. And again, it has to keep moving forward. And why we've been in the camp, why this will keep moving forward is simple. The assault on the dollar and the treasury is happening. It's not going to come from domestically. It's coming from internationally in the East. When I first got to Asia, there was a saying from my mentor in mining that said something very interesting to me. Everything has a chance of turning to gold in Asia. And they're right. So at the end of the day, we see this happening right now. So there could be at some point a massive dip, and it could go all the way down to 4,000. I don't know. But again, right now, one of the core tenements that we talk about in this channel, besides XRP and everything like that, gold is going to become an HQLA repo asset. That means gold will be used right alongside challenging the treasuries for any form of collateral projects. So you realize the West's hand's being forced for cryptos right now. They have to make some moves. So that's what we see happening, in our opinion. People got cut up like sushi and carried out in body bags last night. People know you're going to get a margin call by the end of the trading day for the next day. You can sense it, for at least what I've seen in my career and everything like that still to this day. You can know going into the night, your positions, that you're going to get that margin call, that it's going to come if you violated and you violated your conviction, your Gucci clarity, and you're going to get cut up like sushi. But I want to move to the next thing, all right? There are reports now that Citibank says silver to 150, 300. That's on their radar. They're coming out saying that. The Bank of Montreal says maybe 220 by 2027 for silver. Goldman Sachs and UBS targets have been hit. There's no updates from them yet, but it's getting close. They both had 5,400 for their targets. And SCB, a very important energy and grain European Nordic bank, they're discussing precious metals. So there it is. There's a lot to be talking about, okay? And you know what? So you might be asking yourself, why is all this happening? Why are cryptos getting crushed today and going down? And as far as I'm concerned, to me, it's a shakeout. If you throw the towel in here right now, I feel for you. Don't do it, right? If you're over leveraged, that's a different story. But if you've been accumulating and you're using cold storage wallets, wait to DCA, wait to add if you can, and it makes sense to you, right? But I want to throw this in here, and I want you to understand what we've thought right now, okay? It seems every bank's raising awareness right now for precious metals, right? Maybe they missed out. Maybe they want you to hold the bag for them or us to hold the bag for them. Maybe it's because they see something coming. Well, let's look at some of the reasons for gold's rally. The Fed meeting, gold was up. The war potentially with Iran could escalate, gold goes up. Trade tensions, gold goes up. But there's one thing that connects all these, okay? You got to go back. We're seeing that they're all manifestations of a bigger picture. And the bigger picture is the overreaching is this. The reset's here. And I don't mean that there's going to be an announcement that the reset's here. There's not going to be a celebration or no jubilee. Those days are over. I told you yesterday the Harry Houdini freak show was over. And we've been harping on this channel right here, like I've been drilling this into everybody's head for a long time, that the unit and the bricks and the collateralization of gold was the Pearl Harbor on the U.S. Treasury regime. It's right there now. Now there's going to be a challenge to the Treasury system, okay? Well, the urgency by which gold is being bought is because of tokenization. I repeat, the urgency by which things are being bought now is tokenization, which is happening. Look, the other day we spoke about Tether. That wasn't just some story, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Tether buying gold. They're not buying gold for me. They're buying gold for them. And who are they buying it for? Why would they buy gold for themselves? Unless they have someone who's going to be on the hook, and that maybe they're buying for them later. Governments are buying gold. Ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. government's not going to go into the market and buy gold one day with an announcement. It's going to deputize other companies to do it for them. I mean, it's just happening. And if I'm wrong, well, I'm wrong. Who cares, right? But look, you got 401ks are coming in February. Tokenization, 401ks, Tether buying, Tether's competitors buying, Middle East tokenization starting, silver ramping up. Not enough silver. We went over this, that silver's being bid out of retail hands. Everything above the ground is spoken for. Now they're fighting below. I tell you, we get phone calls every day to all our concessions and other things. Even I have wildcatters calling me, seeing if we'll buy what they have in the ground. But, there was one thing I want to tell you. Myself and my partners, we do our own geological surveys. That's how we got a big name for ourselves. We would show up. And, I love going into the jungles. I told everyone here, in the jungle, it's beautiful. We're all just protein. Sometimes you go in. You got to worry about certain things. It's kind of like, swimming in bad areas. You don't want to go out dusk till dawn. You could eat by a snake. It'd be terrible. I mean, these things happen in Asia a lot more than they're reported on, right? On the western side of the world, you just see a picture of someone inside some massive thing, wondering why that happened, staying on the path. Well, again, I always said this, sharks are nothing but wolves of the water, right? If you saw a wolf on the ground in land, you'd run away from it. So we just can't see what's underwater. The same thing with snakes. They look at heat. But I want to go over, and this is important, by doing my own geological surveys, myself and my partners, we really knew what was in the ground where it was. We didn't rely on anybody. We bagged it, tagged it, drilled all the holes, everything panned. And that's a big thing. And you get trust for a lot of people, right? The metals market's so out of whack right now, I can't even begin to explain. We told you copper. Copper made an all-time high. We harped on things, and now it makes sense, right? Look, if you can take a loan against your precious metals, there's no reason for it ever to be sold till it'll be locked in place. China was hoarding metals for a very long time. Let's go right back here now into crypto, why this is important. Watching what XRP has done with the companies that they've bought, it's not for retail. The companies that in their catalog right now are so institutional. They're at the top of the institutional pyramid. Treasury system, G-Treasury. That should tell you all along, right? If collateralization in the repo market was just U.S. Treasuries, right? I'm going to do a whole video, ladies and gentlemen. If you're here, stay with me on this so that, I can get everyone up to speed who's here and welcome everybody who's new. I harped on these things, right? But they're in bed now in the Treasury market. Spectacular. I don't know any crypto that else has done that. So as far as I'm concerned, the big thing people want in market making is control and settlement, right? As far as I'm concerned, in layman terms, XRP delivers them. And that's a big thing. You got problems right now in silver, but I'll save that for another reason, another day. And why I'm saying I'll save that for another day, the refineries don't want to, right now in the United States of America, this is a big thing. The U.S. is refusing to forward finance deals, okay? That's a big thing. Now, what does that mean? If you're a big refiner in the U.S. and because the industry's backed up and you can't get metal out in a reasonable time, you got a problem, okay? That's just the big thing, that there's a big problem. Anybody who's in the metals business knows this, okay? A lot of big updates. Clarity Bill took one step forward. It's going to go for a full vote. That's good. But the big things right here, guys, to take advantage of, right? And the things that we were harping on, why the great resets here? Again, our take on this, and if you're here in the Crypto Republic, thank you for being here with us. Our Gucci clarity, our Gucci conviction, everything comes because of what the BRICS is doing with the unit, with collateralized gold. Our take on this has got nothing to do domestically, nothing at all. I'm not in that domestic camp on the Western tranche that said this is happening organically. We're coming from the vantage point, okay, and what we're seeing from the crow's nest and what we've been talking about for the better part of 2 years and a year and here publicly for the last few months. And if you're here, I want you to get this in your head. You're going to hear me say this a lot. The collateralization of gold is massive. That is a challenge to the dollar hegemon system, again. So the DTCC and others have to step up what they're doing because there's a challenge to its global hegemon right now. So the West side, backed by leverage, backed by debt, is going to come up with something right here. And XRP is so important to the plumbing with this. It is so hard to quantify how valuable XRP will be in the future. The markets are very low right now. People are nervous. Everything's going lower. Again, we are the remora swimming underneath the sharks. We are feasting and gorging on the blood in the streets right now. The money, the spec money has come out of the crypto market, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, you gotta keep this clarity right now. Buck up. Do not feel sad about this, okay? If you have the ability to DCA all day if it makes sense. It's not financial advice, but if it makes sense to your situation, have a look at that, right? Okay? I don't know what your finances are, okay? I'm not giving you financial advice. But when there's blood in the streets, even Warren Buffett said that, be greedy, okay? When everyone else is greedy, be afraid. But look, again, everything is changing right now, right? Because once the unit and the BRICS, they were hoarding gold a long time, and now China was accumulating gold for years. They were always basically never really telling the truth of how much gold they had. Now you can see why. So this is when you got to stick to your recce, stick to your plan, stick to everything, because it's beginning right now. And again, we're in the camp, and I'm going to build on this, right? And if everyone's brand new here, I harped on a lot of things. The HQLA of gold is what is the trigger for the global reset. That's it. And we're going to go over that very, very more. And, thank you for being here with us, everybody. Again, it's very, very important. I want to go back to on-chain behavior. This tells a story. Markets speak first through data, exchange balances, dropping, velocity spikes, and institutional accumulation, signal preparation for scale. During the 1920s, banks quietly accumulated bonds before the roaring economy surged. Today, on-chain movement tells the same story. Retail may be fearful, but institutions are quietly building the floor. While the crowd panicked, the whales moved silently, ladies and gentlemen. Always remember this. Look, notice these trends and compare them to retail panic. Comment if you've seen similar patterns in history where retail panic throws in the towel, but whales continue to gorge, okay? I want to talk about banking integrations going live. Crypto adoption happens not on exchanges, but in core banking systems, like when FedWire revolutionized settlement speed in the 1970s. Core platforms now integrate Ripple's rails. Custody goes native. Payment becomes programmable. Tokenized assets become standard features. Ladies and gentlemen, adoption isn't a gradual sales process anymore. It's a software update. Just think about ATMs redefine access to cash. Software integration with XRP redefines access to institutional liquidity. I want to talk about retail versus institutional contrast. Institutional adoption brings liquidity, ladies and gentlemen, but also governance. Think of it as the difference between Wild West banking and modern regulatory frameworks. Permission, domains, compliance layers, issue authority, stablecoins can be frozen. Access can be restricted. Retail may feel frustration, but institutions secure strategic positioning. Retail watches candles. Everyone's watching that right now. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of negative comments here because of what's happening. Institutions rewrite the plumbing. Again, comment if you notice supply shifts before price movements. This is where history repeats itself. This is where XRP evolves, ladies and gentlemen. XRP is no longer just a bridge asset. Think of it as the early electricity grids, passive at first, then powering entire industries. Native lending, underwrites collateral, institutional loans, and liquidity provisioning transform XRP into a productive engine. Like Wall Street adopting from ticket tape to electronic trading, XRP is evolving from passive settlement to active market infrastructure. The infrastructure itself now generates value, independent of daily price swings. So here's my conclusion. The biggest financial shifts happen quietly in governance, code, and infrastructure. XRP is entering BlackRock's orbits. It signals long-term positioning, infrastructure alignment, a new paradigm for global liquidity. I want to hear from you guys. Do you think institutions reshape crypto, or does crypto reshape institutions? The window doesn't close with headlines. It closes quietly, like the unknown foundations of past financial revolutions. Retail watches candles, unfortunately. Institutions are building the plumbing for the next generation of global finance. XRP is at the center. If you made it to this point, like I always say, the best part of the Italian ice is the candy at the bottom. I appreciate you. As we see the markets unfold, and I use analogies, right? It's begun. There's no putting the genie back in this bottle. The Eastern tranche, the BRICS, they've made their play to collateralize gold instead of having to use treasury. They were tired of being sanctioned. They were tired of a lot of things. That's why they've been hoarding gold for the last 24 months. And that's why they have been collateralizing metals. That's why India, you can take a loan against your silver. That's why you have a lot of buying of gold. To us, Tether was the signal. I want you to think about this, right? Crypto is going to have its day. Its moment's coming, because you better believe this. The Western side of the tranche isn't going to sit idle and let this happen. In our opinion, the Great Reset, we're framing this, started because of the collateralization of gold to use in the repo market for finance projects. So we've been talking about this. We're going to keep talking about this again. Okay, moving forward, right? We spoke about the new futures exchanges in China for platinum and palladium. They're trying to make a whole mirror of the economic system and just going on gold. Will gold have a dip? Probably at some point. But everyone's talking about it right now, so the spec money is there. And the spec money is there. That's the money chasing momentum right now. But again, clarity is moving forward. That is so important because we're going to remember these days. We're going to remember them. We'll remember this video right now. And I tell you, you got to buck up. You got to stand strong. You got to remember why you got in this market. You got to find that Gucci conviction. You got to dig deep and deep to understand. I told you that we're walking up this frigid, frosty mountain with our frosty beverage because it's cold on the way to the top. You got to do this every day, whether the candles are green or red. And when it's red, I told you the biggest villain's going to be your mind telling you what you should or shouldn't do. But the things that we've been going over every day, the things that we've outlaid are so important right now because this gives us our conviction of where we're going. And I know where we're going. And this is not financial advice, but if you're here watching this, you are a financial mercenary now. And I'm proud of you because we've been overrun. There's nowhere to fall back. Do you know why? We were seeing the purchasing power of our money go lower. We're seeing assets inflate in prices, commodities, okay? That eats into everything, right? Ladies and gentlemen, when I tell you the Harry Houdini freak show is over, which it is, and I gave you the Lord of the Rings analogy, that leads to the climactic conclusion of where we know where this is going and why. And if you got that Gucci clarity and you're here with me and us today, do you realize that the Western side always wins? And why I say this is because this is a game that they invented. They invented. Sometimes sitting on the sidelines is probably the scariest thing that you can do. Again, XRP gives the ultimate neutral settlement control. The powers that be like control. They had control of the paper markets in the CME, London. What else gives them the control in the blockchain world? Comment below. I hit you with a lot in this video. I'm trying to condense everything, right? I'm going to do a whole video on HQLA. I'm going to do a whole video on this. Probably not going to get a lot of views, but I want you to see why the conviction and why I'm on a red day today, I take a sigh of relief and I breathe because I know when the Western tranche is forced into action and the BRICS and the East side force this bill, and it will force it through. Whatever you may think the banks control things, they do, they don't, we'll never know. But you can tell by someone's actions. And the fact that this is moving through now and it's going to be voted on, it's going to pass because the Western Treasury dollar regime has no choice but to evolve. And as they evolve, this is what happens. BlackRock is the Goliath. They might as well be the Kraken in a positive way. I don't want to say, I will never throw mud at anyone. Why compare them to the Kraken? Because they're Goliath. They're massive. They're massive. It makes common sense for them. Okay? But ask yourself this question. When you got involved in crypto, why did you? I know why I got involved in crypto. And I know when I talk to everyone who retains any capacity, they're smiling today. They're confident today. They're saying, awesome job. You know, never doubted you. I'm getting a hat tip. I'm getting a pat on the back like I parted water. Because every time I harped on the same thing for everybody here, I harped on them. When they needed the more conviction, they would call me up no matter what time, and I would talk to them and go over and over again the same way. If you need conviction, come back and watch these videos. Don't give up the ship. Because the best things are coming. But crypto is the future. Blockchain is the future. And as the East side makes their move and forces the West side hand, that is the wind in the sail. I told you what happens in Asia is the wind in the sail. The difference in spreads is our compass. So as the wind starts to blow, And I'm telling you what I'm doing for myself and the people that retain us in any capacity, what we're doing and why. We accumulate and we sit and wait. That's why when we expanded from just futures trading and physical commodities into concession development, to me, the most exciting thing is developing a new piece of ground. I love it. I love doing the geological surveys. I love going into the hardcore jungles. There's nothing quite like it, because by doing our own geological surveys, I had my fingers on the pulse. We knew what was there. We didn't have to rely on anybody. And when you're willing to walk ahead of everybody and go into the breach, that gives you conviction and confidence. Conviction and confidence. Because make no mistake about this, ladies and gentlemen, we're overrun. Get excited. Good times are coming. Good times are coming. You look at these red days, and if it makes sense, do what you got to do. But don't throw in the towel. If you're over-leveraged, you got bitten. Remember what Jesse Livermore said about trading size. Again, this is a marathon. You got to be able to outlast the market. As always, thank you to everyone who supports this channel. Liking the video and subscribing, commenting really does make a difference. Have a great day always. Stay emotionless. Watch XRP closely. This could be a defining moment. Ladies and gentlemen, this content is for informational entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice. Always do your own research and consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions. Remember, the game is changing, and those who understand it first will benefit most. Make sure you're on the right side of it. You have two choices. You can be like the crowd, reacting after the move, rationalizing why they missed it, telling themselves they'll never let it happen again, or you can be the one who saw behind the curtain, the one who understood the infrastructure shift, the one who positioned early, not randomly, but intentionally. Because some moments in history are loud, but the ones that change everything are quiet, right up until the moment they're not. And this is one of those moments. Do not blink, because the world is distracting you with noise, while XRP continues developing behind the scenes and building momentum in the broader digital asset landscape. Stay sharp, stay informed, accumulate knowledge. Your move now will be remembered. This is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning. This opened your eyes. Smash that like button, ring that bell, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Turn on notifications, and most importantly, subscribe to the Crypto Public. We break down the major global banking trends shaping digital assets today, giving you context, clarity, and research you can use. Don't just watch history happen. Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay in the Republic. Love you all always.